She was invisible, a ghost in a designer uniform, pouring wine for men who moved billions while she survived on tips. But when the billionaire threw an impossible financial puzzle at her, meant to humiliate, meant to crush, Lily Hart did something no one expected. She solved it. In 14 seconds, she dismantled a $4 billion deal and exposed a trap that would have destroyed everything he'd built. Now he's staring at her like she just appeared out of thin air. And her life? It's about to get very, very complicated. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The restaurant didn't have a name on the door. That's how you knew it cost more than most people made in a year. Lily Hart moved between tables like she'd been trained to disappear. Shoulders back but not proud. Eyes down but aware. The kind of invisible that took practice. She'd been doing this for 3 years now, and she'd gotten good at it. The art of being present without being seen. The marble floors caught every sound and magnified it. Conversations about mergers, about hostile takeovers, about reshaping industries before dessert arrived. Lily heard all of it, remembered most of it, said nothing. Table 7 needed water. Table 3 wanted their check. Table 9, the private room in the back, that was different. That was Ethan Cole. Everyone knew who Ethan Cole was. 32 years old, self-made billionaire by 28, single father, though no one ever saw the kid. He'd built Cole Capital from nothing, turned it into something that made old money nervous. The kind of man who walked into rooms and changed the temperature just by existing. Lily had served his table twice before. He never looked at her, not once. She was furniture that occasionally brought food. Tonight felt different. The energy in that private room was sharp, almost violent. She could feel it from the hallway. When Marcus, the floor manager, told her she'd be covering table 9 tonight, something in his face said good luck. She pushed through the heavy door with a tray of appetizers. 6 men in suits that cost more than her car. Correction, more than a car. She didn't own one. They sat around a table designed for 12, spread out like they owned not just the room but the entire concept of space. Ethan Cole sat at the head. Dark hair pushed back like he'd been running his hands through it. Sharp jawline. Eyes that looked black in the low light, but she knew were actually dark brown. He wore his wealth quietly, no flashy watch, no rings, just a perfectly tailored navy suit and the kind of confidence that didn't need accessories. "Gentlemen," he was saying as Lily entered, "we're not here to negotiate. We're here to finalize." She moved around the table, setting plates down with the silent precision she'd perfected. Seared scallops with some foam that probably had a French name. The men barely noticed her. She preferred it that way. "The Meridian deal is clean," one of them said. Silver hair, red tie. Robert something. CFO of somewhere. $4 billion. Their board's already agreed to terms. "Too clean," another voice. Younger guy. Nervous energy. "The numbers are almost perfect. When are numbers ever perfect? When you're buying a well-run company, Harrison." That was Ethan. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through everything else like a blade. Perfect numbers aren't a red flag. They're the point. Lily placed the last plate and stepped back toward the wall, hands folded, eyes down, waiting to be needed, waiting to disappear again. "The due diligence came back spotless," Robert continued. "Revenue streams are diversified, debts manageable. The acquisition gives us vertical integration on the entire supply chain. It's exactly what we need." "It's too exactly what we need," Harrison muttered. Ethan's fingers drummed once on the table, a tiny gesture that somehow felt like thunder. "You have concerns. Say them clearly or don't say them at all." Harrison shifted in his seat. "I'm just saying, $4 billion is a lot to move on a deal that feels, I don't know, scripted?" "Scripted." Ethan repeated the word like he was tasting something bitter. "We've been vetting this for 8 months. Every department, every division, every offshore account. If there was something to find, we'd have found it." Lily knew she should leave. Her tray was empty. She had other tables. But something made her stay, pressed against the wall in the shadows, listening. "The board meets Monday," Robert said. "Final vote. We need everyone aligned." "We're aligned," Ethan said flatly. "Unless someone has a specific, actionable concern. Do you?" He looked directly at Harrison. The younger man opened his mouth, closed it, shook his head. "Good. Then we..." One of the men's phones buzzed, then another. Within seconds, all of them were checking their screens, faces tight with identical expressions of controlled panic. "Market's dropping," someone said. "Tech sector's bleeding." "It's a correction, not a crash," Ethan said, not even looking at his own phone. "We knew this was coming. It doesn't change our timeline." "If Meridian stock drops before we close, it won't." Ethan's certainty was almost physical. "We lock this down Monday. Signed by Wednesday. The market can burn itself out by then." Lily watched him, really watched him, for the first time. The way he held himself like gravity worked differently for him. The way other men leaned forward when he spoke, like they might miss something crucial if they didn't catch every word. She'd seen powerful people before. Plenty of them. They came through here every night, throwing around millions like it was monopoly money. But Ethan Cole wasn't like them. Those men inherited power or stumbled into it or bought it. Ethan Cole took it, built it. You could see it in the way he moved. Nothing wasted, nothing soft. Water? It took Lily a second to realize someone was talking to her. One of the men, she hadn't caught his name, was holding up his empty glass, not even looking in her direction. "Of course." She moved forward, pitcher in hand. As she poured, Ethan's phone actually did buzz. He glanced at it and something flickered across his face, not quite emotion, more like a crack in a wall. He stood abruptly. "Excuse me." He walked past Lily without seeing her, phone already at his ear. "Sophie, I told you I can't." The door shut behind him, cutting off the rest. The men at the table relaxed immediately, like someone had released a pressure valve. They started talking among themselves, voices looser now. Lily finished her rounds and slipped out. The hallway was empty except for Ethan, standing near the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Manhattan. The city sprawled below, all light and steel and relentless forward motion. He had his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. "Sophie, you can't call me during—" Pause. "I don't care what he said, you follow what I tell you." Another pause, longer. His free hand pressed against the glass. "Because I'm your father, that's why. Now put him to bed and I'll be home by 10. He ended the call and just stood there, staring out at the city like he was trying to find something in it. Lily should have walked past him, should have gone back to her other tables. But she'd been invisible for so long that sometimes she forgot people could actually see her, and that made her careless. "Long night?" The words came out before she could stop them. Ethan turned. For a second he looked confused, like a piece of furniture had just spoken to him. Then his eyes focused, really seeing her for the first time. "What?" "Sorry." Lily felt heat crawl up her neck. "I didn't mean to. I'll just—" "No, wait." He tilted his head slightly. "Do I know you?" "I'm your server, table 9. "Right." But he kept looking at her like he was trying to solve an equation. "You've worked here before." 3 years. He turned back to the window. Dismissal. She recognized it. Lily started to leave. "You heard all that," he said. Not a question. She stopped. "I'm sorry?" "In there. The deal. You were standing against the wall the entire time." Her stomach dropped. Servers weren't supposed to listen. They weren't supposed to retain anything. They definitely weren't supposed to acknowledge that they'd heard confidential business discussions. "I was just waiting to see if anyone needed—" "It's fine." He waved a hand. "I don't care. I'm just curious. You heard everything about the Meridian acquisition?" This felt like a trap. Everything about Ethan Cole felt like a trap. "I wasn't paying attention to the specifics." "Sure you were." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You strike me as someone who pays attention to everything." Lily said nothing. $4 billion, Ethan continued, almost to himself. "Biggest deal I've ever done. And Harrison's in there acting like the sky is falling because the numbers are too perfect." He made quote marks with his fingers, mocking. "Do you know what perfect numbers mean? That someone's good at their job?" "Exactly." He pointed at her like she'd just proven his point. Everyone's so used to chaos and incompetence that when something actually works the way it's supposed to, they panic. Lily knew she should agree and leave, but something in his voice, that edge of absolute certainty, poked at something in her brain. "Or someone's good at hiding things," she said quietly. Ethan went very still. "What?" Too late to take it back now. "I just meant Perfect numbers can also mean someone's very carefully controlling what you see. You think I'm being played. I don't think anything. I don't know anything about your deal. No, no. He stepped closer, and Lily had to fight the urge to step back. You said something specific, that someone's hiding things. Why would you say that? I shouldn't have said anything. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Explain. The way he looked at her, like she was suddenly visible, suddenly real. It was unsettling. Lily had spent 3 years being a ghost, and now this man was demanding she become solid. I heard one of your guys say the numbers were too perfect, she said carefully, and you dismissed it. But in my experience, when something looks exactly the way you want it to look, that's usually when you should be most careful. Your experience. Ethan's smile was sharp now. What experience does a waitress have with $4 billion acquisitions? There it was. The reminder of where she stood, who she was, who she wasn't. Lily felt something cold settle in her chest. You're right. None. Excuse me. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Wait. He sounded different now, curious instead of cutting. I'm serious. What makes you say that? It doesn't matter. Humor me. Lily turned back. Ethan Cole stood there in his perfect suit with his perfect confidence, and she made a decision. A stupid one, probably. But she was so tired of being invisible. Your CFO said revenue streams are diversified, she said, which usually means multiple income sources, right? Different products, different markets, different risk profiles. Right. But he also said the acquisition gives you vertical integration on the entire supply chain, which means you're buying a company that does one thing really well, controls every step of a single process. Ethan's expression didn't change. Go on. Those two things don't match. If Meridian has truly diversified revenue streams, they wouldn't need perfect vertical integration. They'd have redundancy built in, safety nets. But if they've built perfect vertical integration, that means they're putting all their eggs in one basket. So either your CFO is wrong about the diversification, or he's wrong about the integration. Either way, someone's lying about what you're actually buying. The silence that followed felt like a physical thing. Ethan stared at her, just stared, like he'd never seen another human being before. What's your name? He asked finally. Lily. Lily Hart. Lily Hart. He repeated it slowly. And where did a waitress named Lily Hart learn to analyze corporate structure? I read a lot. Bullshit. The word was so casual, so matter-of-fact, that it almost didn't register as an insult. You just dismantled an 8-month due diligence process in 30 seconds, Ethan continued. Nobody reads their way into that. Where did you work before this? It doesn't matter. It clearly does. Lily's jaw tightened. I used to work in finance. I don't anymore. Can I go? What kind of finance? The kind that doesn't exist for me anymore. Why not? Because life happened. Is there anything else you need, Mr. Cole? Because I have other tables. She expected him to let her go. Rich men didn't chase explanations from service workers. But Ethan Cole apparently didn't follow the usual rules. Prove it, he said. Excuse me? He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward her. Numbers, spreadsheets, dense financial data that would look like gibberish to most people. This is the Meridian Executive Summary, he said, condensed version of their last 3 years. If you're so sure something's wrong, show me where. I'm working. I'll pay for your time. Name your price. It's not about money. Everything's about money. How much? Lily felt anger spark in her chest. You can't just throw cash at people and expect them to perform for you. I absolutely can. That's how the world works. Maybe your world. You're in my world right now, Lily Hart. You walked into it the second you opened your mouth about my deal. So either back up what you said, or admit you were talking out of your ass. The challenge in his voice was clear. He expected her to fold, expected her to apologize and slink away. He'd already written the end of this conversation. Lily stepped forward and took the phone from his hand. She scanned the data. 3 years of revenue reports, expenditure summaries, profit margins. The numbers were clean, almost too clean. Her eyes moved faster now, pulling patterns out of the chaos. Here, she said after maybe 10 seconds. She zoomed in on a specific quarter. Q2 2 years ago. Revenue jumped 43%. Your report attributes it to expanded market share in Southeast Asia. That's what their report says, yes. But their operating costs barely moved. If they actually expanded into new markets, you'd see corresponding increases in labor, logistics, regulatory compliance. Instead, their cost structure stayed almost identical, which means they didn't expand. They reported phantom revenue. Ethan took the phone back, looked at the screen, then at her. Or they're just efficient. Nobody's that efficient. Look at Q4 the same year. Revenue stabilizes, but now costs spike by 60%. They're compensating, probably paying off the people who helped them fake the Q2 numbers. That's a hell of a leap. It's pattern recognition. You want more? She took the phone back before he could answer. Her fingers flew across the screen, pulling up different sheets, cross-referencing data points. Their supply chain integration, the thing your CFO loves so much, it's built on exclusive contracts with a Singaporean logistics firm that didn't exist 4 years ago. No history, no track record, just appeared fully formed and immediately landed a 9-figure contract with Meridian. That's a shell company, probably owned by someone on Meridian's board, which means your vertical integration is actually just internal money movement designed to inflate asset value. Lily looked up from the screen. Ethan was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. You did that in 14 seconds, he said quietly, closer to 20. Who are you? I already told you. No, he cut her off. You told me your name. I'm asking who you actually are, because waitresses don't do what you just did. Lily handed back his phone. I need to get back to work. I'll pay you $100,000. She stopped. What? Consult on this deal. Full audit. I'll give you access to everything. Complete financial records, operational data, board meeting minutes. You have 48 hours. If you find something, I'll pay you $100,000. If you don't, you walk away and I'll forget this conversation happened. You're insane. I'm careful. There's a difference. He studied her face. You saw something in 30 seconds that my team missed in 8 months. That's either luck or skill. I don't believe in luck. I have a job, responsibilities. Take a sick leave, I'll cover it. You don't even know if I'm right. I know you're not stupid enough to stake your credibility on a guess. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back, and held it out. My private number. You call me before midnight tonight if you're interested. After midnight, the offer disappears. Lily didn't take the card. Why me? Because you're either a genius or a con artist, and I find both useful. I'm neither. Then you're the third thing, someone who walked away from something they were brilliant at. And people like that? He pressed the card into her hand. They're always hungry to prove they still have it. Before she could respond, the door to the private dining room opened and Robert stuck his head out. Ethan, we need you back. 2 minutes. Ethan didn't look away from Lily. Robert's eyes flicked between them, confused, then retreated. Midnight, Ethan said again. Then he walked past her, back into the room full of men reshaping the world over expensive wine. Lily stood alone in the hallway, holding a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She should throw it away. Should forget this entire conversation, should go back to being invisible. But she looked down at the card, simple, expensive cardstock with just a name and a number, and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Possibility. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She served tables, smiled politely, disappeared efficiently. But her mind was somewhere else entirely, picking apart the Meridian data she'd seen, finding more holes, more inconsistencies. She was good at this. She'd forgotten how good. By the time the restaurant closed at 11, Lily had made her decision. She pulled out her phone in the back alley behind the kitchen, surrounded by dumpsters and the smell of expensive food gone to waste. Her hands shook slightly as she dialed the number. It rang once. Lily Hart. Ethan's voice, clear and awake despite the late hour, like he'd been waiting. I'll do it, she said, but not for 100,000. A pause. Name your price. No price. If I find something and you kill the deal because of it, you donate 100,000 to St. Catherine's Hospital Debt Relief Fund. Specific charity. There's a story there. Do we have a deal or not? We have a deal. I'll have an NDA and access credentials sent to you within the hour. Where should I send them? Lily rattled off her address. A studio apartment in Queens that cost too much and had heat that barely worked. I'll have a car pick you up at 6 a.m., Ethan said. My office. We'll set you up with everything you need. I work better alone. You'll be alone, in a conference room with a door that locks and enough coffee to kill a normal person. 6 a.m., Lily, don't make me regret this. He hung up before she could respond. Lily stood in the alley, phone still pressed to her ear, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. Then she went home and didn't sleep. The black car arrived at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes early. Like even Ethan Cole's drivers were trying to prove something. Lily had been awake since midnight anyway, sitting at her kitchen table with instant coffee and a borrowed laptop that wheezed when it processed too much data. The NDA had come through at 11:42 p.m., 17 pages of legal language that basically said if she breathed a word of what she saw, Ethan could sue her into oblivion. She'd signed it without reading past page 3. At this point, what did she have to lose? The credentials arrived 6 minutes later. Access to servers that probably cost more than her entire neighborhood. She'd spent the rest of the night doing preliminary work, mapping out what she'd need to examine first, which divisions to audit, which numbers felt wrong even from a distance. By the time the car pulled up, she'd already found 3 more inconsistencies. The driver didn't speak, just opened the door, waited for her to climb in, then pulled into early morning traffic that was already thick with people chasing their own versions of survival. Lily watched the city slide past. She'd lived in New York for 8 years now, but she still felt like a tourist sometimes. Like she was always on the outside looking in at a life that belonged to other people. People who wore the right clothes and said the right things and never had to choose between paying rent and paying for their mother's medication. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, the floor manager. Heard you called in sick. You okay? She typed back quickly. Stomach thing. Should be fine tomorrow. The lie came easy. She'd gotten good at those too. Cole Capital occupied floors 47 through 52 of a building in Midtown that looked like someone had tried to build a monument to glass and ambition. The lobby was all marble and sharp angles, the kind of space designed to make you feel small. Security was expecting her. They handed her a temporary badge with her photo already on it. When had they even gotten her photo? And directed her to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. The doors opened on the 49th floor. The space was quiet in the way expensive places were quiet. Sound got absorbed by thick carpet and acoustic panels and the weight of money itself. People were already at their desks despite the early hour, faces lit by multiple monitors, fingers flying across keyboards. Nobody looked up when Lily stepped out of the elevator. She was a stranger in a place that ate strangers for breakfast. Lily Hart? She turned. A woman in her 50s, perfectly styled gray hair, expression that said she'd dealt with worse than you before her first coffee. That's me. Diana Crawford. I run operations for Mr. Cole. Follow me. They walked through an open floor plan dotted with glass-walled offices. Everything was sleek, modern, designed within an inch of its life. Through the windows, Manhattan sprawled out in every direction, and from up here you could almost believe you owned it. Diana stopped at a conference room near the corner. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a table that could seat 20, and along one wall, a setup that made Lily's heart beat faster. 3 massive monitors, a workstation with enough processing power to run a small country, and a coffee station that looked like it belonged in a specialty shop. You'll work here, Diana said. The system is already logged in with your credentials. You have full access to the Meridian files, plus our internal analysis for comparison. Printer, scanner, phones, everything's labeled. Coffee and espresso machine are self-explanatory. If you need food, dial 31 for the executive kitchen. They'll send up whatever you want. Lily stopped. This is a lot. Mr. Cole doesn't do things halfway. Diana's expression didn't change. A few ground rules. No one else comes in this room unless you specifically request them. Your access is logged, but not monitored. What you look at is your business. If you need to call external contacts for verification, use the landline. It's encrypted. Questions? Where's Ethan? Mr. Cole is in meetings until 2. He'll check in with you then. Diana pulled out her own phone, tapped something. My direct line is programmed into the desk phone. Extension 1. You need anything? You call. Clear? Clear. Good luck, Ms. Hart. Diana left, pulling the door shut behind her. The soft click of the latch felt like a starting gun. Lily stood alone in a conference room that probably cost more to furnish than she'd made in her entire life, staring at a computer system that held the secrets to a $4 billion deal. She sat down and got to work. The first 2 hours were just orientation. Understanding the scope of Meridian Industries, how they'd structured their corporate hierarchy, which subsidiaries reported to whom. It was like assembling a puzzle where half the pieces were deliberately cut wrong. Meridian had started as a manufacturing company 20 years ago. Industrial components for automotive and aerospace. Solid business, nothing flashy. Then about 6 years back, they'd started expanding aggressively. Acquisitions, new markets, technological pivots. On paper, it looked like a success story. Small regional player becomes global force. But the more Lily dug, the more it felt like watching a magic trick. Misdirection and sleight of hand, making you look at one thing while something else happened just out of view. The revenue diversification that Robert had mentioned? It existed, technically. Meridian had income streams from 14 different sectors. But when Lily pulled the actual numbers, 12 of those sectors contributed less than 3% each to overall revenue. The real money, 86% of it, came from a single division. Industrial logistics for rare earth mineral processing. So much for diversification. She pulled up the supply chain data next. The vertical integration that was supposed to make this deal so attractive. And yes, Meridian controlled nearly every step of their primary process: mining consultation, material processing, component manufacturing, distribution logistics. But it was the distribution logistics that made her stop. Transglobal Solutions, the Singaporean firm she'd mentioned to Ethan last night. According to the contracts, Transglobal had exclusive rights to handle all of Meridian's shipping and warehousing for Southeast Asia operations. The contract was worth $900 million over 5 years. Lily pulled up Transglobal's corporate registration. The company had been founded 4 years ago by a holding group based in the Cayman Islands. No prior business history, no client list beyond Meridian. The holding group's ownership was buried under so many shell companies that tracing it would take days. She made a note and kept digging. By hour 3, she'd found the pattern. Every major division of Meridian's operation was tied to at least one external company with murky ownership and no verifiable history. It was like someone had built an entire ecosystem of fake businesses just to create the illusion of a functioning supply chain. The phone on the desk rang, making her jump. She picked it up. Hello? You need to eat. Ethan's voice, slightly distorted by the line. I'm fine. You've been in there for 3 hours without a break. Eat something. I'm not paying for you to pass out from low blood sugar. You're not paying me at all. Semantics, dial 31, order food. That's not a suggestion. He hung up. Lily stared at the phone, annoyed and slightly amused. She dialed 31. A cheerful voice answered. Executive Kitchen, how can I help you? I guess I need food? Absolutely. Any preferences or restrictions? Just something with protein. I'm not picky. I'll send up the breakfast special. Coffee? Please. 20 minutes later, someone knocked and left a tray outside the door. Lily found eggs, toast, fruit, and coffee that actually tasted like coffee instead of burned water. She ate at the desk, eyes never leaving the screens. The next section was expenditures. This was where creative accounting usually showed its hand. Expenses that didn't quite match up. Purchases that seemed disconnected from actual business needs. Meridian's expenditure reports were impressively clean, almost admirably so. Every dollar accounted for, every purchase justified with documentation. Too clean. Lily started cross-referencing expenses with revenue timing. A trick she'd learned years ago. If someone was cooking books, the timing often gave them away. Fake expenses usually appeared right after revenue spikes, used to balance the sheets and hide the fraud. She found it in the Environmental Compliance Division. Meridian operated 17 processing facilities across 6 countries. Industrial work meant environmental regulations, which meant inspections, permits, waste management. All expensive, all necessary. According to the reports, Meridian spent approximately $40 million annually on environmental compliance, third-party inspections, waste disposal, regulatory fees. The documentation was flawless. Lily pulled up the actual inspection schedules from public regulatory databases. Her stomach dropped. Half the inspections Meridian claimed to have passed had never happened. The regulatory bodies had no record of them. The waste disposal contracts were with companies that either didn't exist or had been shut down for violations years ago. She sat back in her chair, heart pounding. This wasn't just creative accounting, this was criminal fraud. Meridian wasn't just inflating numbers. They were actively avoiding environmental regulations and hiding it with fake documentation. She pulled up satellite imagery of 3 of the processing facilities. It took some creative searching, but she found recent photos from environmental monitoring services. 2 of the 3 facilities showed visible contamination patterns in the surrounding waterways. Dark discharge that shouldn't be there. The kind of thing that happened when industrial waste wasn't being processed properly. Lily's hands shook slightly as she compiled the data. Ethan had been 14 hours away from buying a company that was committing environmental crimes on a massive scale. If this came out after the acquisition, it wouldn't just cost him the $4 billion. It would destroy his reputation, trigger investigations, possibly criminal charges for everyone involved. The door opened. Ethan walked in, phone in one hand, jacket slung over his shoulder. He looked like he'd already been awake for 12 hours. Probably had been. "Talk to me," he said without preamble. "You've been in here for 7 hours. What do we have?" Lily swiveled her chair to face him. "You need to kill the deal." He stopped moving. "Explain." Meridian's entire operation is built on fraud. The revenue diversification is fiction. 86% of their income comes from one division. The supply chain integration is a network of shell companies designed to move money around and inflate asset values. And the environmental compliance? She turned back to the monitors, pulled up the data. They're not complying with anything. They're dumping toxic waste and covering it with fake inspection reports. Ethan moved closer, studying the screens. His expression was unreadable. "Show me the waste disposal," he said quietly. Lily walked him through it. The fake contracts, the non-existent companies, the satellite imagery showing contamination. "If you buy this company," she said, "you inherit all of this. And when it comes out, not if when, you'll be the one holding the bag. $4 billion for a time bomb that's already ticking." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Robert, conference room B, now. Bring Harrison and the full due diligence team." He paused. "I don't care if you're in a meeting. This takes priority." He hung up and looked at Lily. "Can you present this to them?" "You want me to—" "You found it. You explain it. I need to see their faces when they hear it." "Ethan, I'm nobody to them. They're not going to listen to—" "They'll listen because I'm telling them to listen. Can you do this or not?" Lily felt her pulse spike. She hadn't presented to a room full of executives in 3 years. Hadn't even been in that world in 3 years. But she looked at the data on the screens, at the evidence she'd compiled, and felt something old and familiar wake up inside her. "I can do it," she said. "Good." He checked his watch. "You have 8 minutes. Make it count." The next 8 minutes felt like trying to catch her breath underwater. Lily organized her findings into a clear narrative, pulled up the key evidence, rehearsed her opening in her head. By the time footsteps sounded in the hallway outside, she was as ready as she was going to be. 6 men filed in, Robert, Harrison, and 4 others she didn't recognize. They looked at her with expressions ranging from confusion to barely concealed irritation. "Who the hell is this?" one of them asked. "Consultant?" Ethan said flatly. "Sit down and listen." They sat, but the energy in the room was hostile. These were men used to being the smartest people in every room they entered, and now some unknown woman was about to tell them they'd missed something. Lily stood at the head of the table, hands clasped to keep them from shaking. "My name is Lily Hart. Over the past 7 hours, I've conducted an independent audit of the Meridian Industries acquisition. What I found indicates that proceeding with this deal would expose Coal Capital to significant legal and financial liability." "This is ridiculous," one of the men said, CFO type, expensive watch. "We've had 3 independent firms conduct due diligence over 8 months. If there was something to find, they found what Meridian wanted them to find," Lily interrupted, "which is exactly the problem." She pulled up the revenue data on the main screen. "You've been told Meridian has diversified revenue streams across 14 sectors. That's technically true, but it's also meaningless. 86% of their actual income comes from a single division, rare earth mineral logistics. Everything else is noise designed to make them look stable. That's not, Robert started. Look at the numbers yourself. Lily highlighted the data. Q3 last year, total revenue, $1.2 billion. Revenue from rare earth division, $1.03 billion. The other 13 divisions combined generated $170 million, and half of that came from one-time asset sales, not operational income. She watched their faces, confusion shifting to concentration as they actually looked at what she was showing them. The supply chain integration, she continued, is even worse. You've been excited about vertical integration, but what you're actually buying is a network of shell companies with no operational history. Transglobal Solutions? Founded 4 years ago, no clients except Meridian, owned through a holding company buried under 12 layers of offshore registration. They don't integrate your supply chain, they obfuscate it. Harrison leaned forward. How did you find the ownership structure? That's not in any of the files we reviewed. Because I looked at public corporate registrations in Singapore and cross-referenced them with Cayman banking records that are technically sealed but leak like a sieve if you know where to look. The CFO stopped. That's not legal. I didn't hack anything. I just followed the paperwork trail your due diligence team apparently didn't bother with. Careful, Ethan said quietly, but Lily couldn't tell if he was warning her or enjoying this. She pulled up the next section. The real problem is the environmental compliance. Meridian operates 17 processing facilities. They claim to spend $40 million annually on proper waste disposal and regulatory compliance. They're spending maybe $6 million, and even that's going to companies that don't actually dispose of anything properly. The rest is just fake documentation. She showed them the satellite imagery, the dark stains in the waterways, the inspection records that didn't exist. If Coal Capital acquires this company, Lily said, you inherit active environmental crimes in 6 countries. When this comes out, and it will come out, you're not just losing $4 billion. You're facing criminal investigations, regulatory sanctions, and reputational damage that could destroy everything you've built. Silence. Then everyone started talking at once. This can't be right. Our compliance team reviewed. How did we miss? Enough. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. Robert, can you verify this? Robert looked like he'd been punched. We'd need to re-examine the source documents, cross-check against external databases. It would take, how long? 48 hours minimum. You have 24. Ethan stood. I want independent verification of every claim she just made. If even half of this is accurate, the deal is dead. Clear? Nods around the table. The men filed out, shell-shocked and muttering to each other. Ethan waited until the door closed. Then he turned to Lily. That was either the most impressive thing I've seen all year, he said slowly, or you just tanked my biggest deal on bad data. Which is it? The data's solid. You're certain? I'm certain. He studied her face like he was trying to read something written in a language he didn't quite speak. Where did you work before? And don't give me the vague finance answer. Specifically. Lily felt the familiar tightness in her chest. Does it matter? It matters because I need to know if I can trust you. And right now, you're asking me to walk away from $4 billion based on 7 hours of work. So yes, Lily, it matters. She looked out the window. The city was bright with afternoon sun, all those people down there chasing their own survival, their own dreams. None of them knew or cared what happened in this room. Whitmore and Associates, she said finally. I was a senior analyst, corporate fraud investigation, asset recovery, forensic accounting. I was good at it. Past tense. My mother got sick, stage 4 cancer, no insurance. I took a leave of absence to help her, burned through my savings, then my credit. When she went into remission, I had $300,000 in medical debt and a job that had replaced me. Turns out companies don't hold positions for people who disappear for 8 months. She turned back to him. I've been waitressing for 3 years because it's flexible enough to handle her follow-up treatments and pays enough to keep the debt collectors from foreclosing on her house. That's who I am. That's why I left. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. She's in remission, he said. For now. But stable. Relatively. And you're still serving food to people who don't see you. It's honest work. It's a waste. He said it flatly, like stating a basic fact. You just saved me $4 billion, and you're wasting your life refilling water glasses. Not everyone gets to choose their life, Ethan. Everyone chooses. Some choices just hurt more than others. Lily felt anger flare. Must be nice, having the luxury to believe that. You think I had luxury? His voice went sharp. I built this from nothing. Absolutely nothing. My father was a drunk who spent more time in jail than out of it. My mother walked out when I was 6. I raised myself and my sister in a studio apartment that had rats and no heat. So don't talk to me about luxury and choice like I don't understand the difference. She hadn't expected that. The raw edge in his voice, the crack in the armor. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't be sorry. Be better than your circumstances. That's the only thing that matters. He checked his phone. Robert will verify your findings by tomorrow. If you're right, and I think you are, the Meridian deal dies. The board meets Monday morning. I'll need you there to present to them. Ethan, I can't. Why not? Because I'm not part of your company. I'm not even supposed to be here. You are now. He pulled out his phone, typed something. I'm sending you an employment contract. Temporary consultant position, rate of $5,000 a day plus expenses. Sign it and you're official. That's insane. That's half of what I pay my junior analysts and you're worth 3 times what they are. Sign the contract, Lily. Her phone buzzed. The contract was already there. What happens after Monday? She asked. That depends on you. Meaning? Meaning, if you can find a fraud this big in 7 hours, imagine what you could do with actual resources and time. I have 32 active deals right now. Any one of them could be hiding something. I need someone who can see what others miss. He paused. I need someone like you. Lily stared at the contract on her phone. $5,000 a day. More than she made in a month at the restaurant. It was temporary, sure, but temporary could buy breathing room, could chip away at the debt that followed her like a shadow. Think about it, Ethan said. You have until Monday to decide if you want to stay invisible or if you want to be seen again. He left before she could respond. Lily stood alone at the conference room, surrounded by evidence of corporate fraud and the wreckage of a $4 billion deal she'd just destroyed, and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. She felt dangerous. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Ms. Hart? A woman's voice, professional. This is Karen from St. Catherine's Hospital Billing Department. I'm calling about your mother's account. We show a balance of... I know what the balance is. We've been trying to work with you on a payment plan, but we haven't received anything in 3 months. If we don't receive payment by the end of next week, we'll have to send the account to collections. Lily closed her eyes. How much do you need? The minimum payment is $8,000. $8,000. She had maybe $2,000 in her checking account. Even with the consultant fee, she wouldn't see money for at least 2 weeks after invoicing. I'll get it to you, Lily said. I just need a little more time. I'm sorry, Ms. Hart, but we've extended the timeline multiple times already. End of next week is the absolute deadline. The line went dead. Lily sat down hard in one of the conference room chairs. For a few hours, she'd felt like she could breathe, like maybe things were turning around. But reality was still there, waiting, and it didn't care about corporate fraud or temporary consulting gigs. The door opened again. Diana Crawford stepped in, holding a tablet. Ms. Hart, I have your credentials for Monday's board meeting. You'll need... She stopped, looking at Lily's face. Are you all right? Fine. Just tired. Diana didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. The board meets at 9 a.m. sharp. Dress code is business formal. If you need anything between now and then, you have my number. Thank you. Diana left and Lily was alone again. She looked at the employment contract still glowing on her phone screen. $5,000 a day. Temporary. But temporary was better than nothing. She signed it. Then she called Marcus at the restaurant. Lily, you feeling better? Actually, I need to quit. Silence. Then, what? Why? I got another job. Better opportunity. I'm sorry for the short notice. Lily, you can't just... We need you on the schedule tomorrow night. Saturday's our busiest. I know. I'm sorry. But I have to do this. She could hear him breathing on the other end, frustrated but resigned. Fine. Good luck with whatever this is. He hung up. Lily sat in the expensive conference room with its perfect views and its perfect technology and felt the weight of every bridge she'd just burned. She'd been invisible for 3 years, safe, small, predictable. Now she was stepping back into a world that had chewed her up once already, betting everything on the chance that this time would be different. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Robert confirmed the first batch of your findings. You were right. Board meeting, Monday 9 a.m. Don't be late. E. Lily looked out at Manhattan, at all that glass and steel and ambition, and made herself a promise. She'd been invisible long enough. It was time to be dangerous again. Monday morning arrived like a countdown that had been ticking in Lily's chest since she signed that contract. She stood outside Cole Capital at 8:42 a.m., wearing a suit she'd bought on Sunday with money she didn't have, charged to a credit card that was already maxed out, but what was one more debt on top of the mountain she was already carrying? The suit was charcoal gray, simple, professional. It fit well enough. But standing here looking up at the building, she felt like a kid playing dress-up in her mother's clothes. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, where are you? Outside. Why? She didn't have a good answer for that. Fear, maybe. The sudden understanding that she was about to walk into a room full of people who controlled billions of dollars and tell them their $4 billion deal was garbage. Her phone rang. You're stalling, Ethan said when she answered. I'm preparing. You're panicking. Get up here. You have 12 minutes. What if they don't believe me? Then I'll make them believe you. That's my job. Your job is to present the data and not let them intimidate you into backing down. Can you do that? Lily looked at her reflection in the building's glass facade. She barely recognized herself. Yeah, I can do that. Good. 49th floor, conference room A. It's the big one. He hung up. Lily took a breath and walked inside. The elevator ride felt like falling in slow motion. By the time she reached the 49th floor, her hands had stopped shaking. She'd found something cold and steady inside herself, something she'd buried 3 years ago when survival became more important than ambition. Diana was waiting outside conference room A. Miss Hart, right on time. She handed Lily a tablet. Your presentation is loaded. The board is already seated. Mr. Cole will introduce you, then you have the floor. Questions? How hostile is this going to be? Diana's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Very. Don't take it personally. They're angry they missed something, and angry people look for someone to blame. Just stick to the facts. That's comforting. It's honest. Good luck. Diana opened the door. The conference room was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, a table that could seat 40, and currently seated exactly 15 people who all turned to look at Lily like she was something stuck to their shoe. Ethan sat at the head of the table. To his right was an older woman with steel gray hair and an expression that could cut glass. Margaret Chen, board chairwoman. Lily recognized her from the business journals. Old money, old power, zero patience for mistakes. The rest of the board was a mix of venture capitalists, hedge fund managers, and corporate executives who'd made their fortunes destroying companies and rebuilding them for profit. Every single one of them looked at Lily like she was wasting their time. This is Lily Hart, Ethan said, his voice carrying across the room without effort. She's the consultant who identified critical issues with the Meridian acquisition. Ms. Hart, please proceed. Lily walked to the presentation screen, connected the tablet, and pulled up her first slide. Her heart was hammering, but her hands were steady. Good morning. Over the past 72 hours, I conducted an independent audit of Meridian Industries. What I found indicates that proceeding with this acquisition would expose Cole Capital to approximately $6 billion in liability through environmental violations, fraudulent financial reporting, and criminal conspiracy. $6 billion? Margaret Chen's voice was sharp. That's more than the deal itself. Yes, ma'am. The liability exceeds the purchase price by roughly 40% when you factor in potential regulatory fines, legal fees, and reputational damage. A man halfway down the table, gray suit, red tie, face like he'd been sucking lemons, leaned forward. We had 3 independent firms conduct due diligence. Are you suggesting they're all incompetent? I'm suggesting they found what they were directed to find. Meridian's documentation is extremely sophisticated. Unless you specifically look for discrepancies between reported activities and actual regulatory records, it appears legitimate. And you just happen to look for those discrepancies? The skepticism in his voice was thick enough to choke on. Yes. In 72 hours. In 7 hours, actually. The rest of the time was verification. Silence. Then someone laughed. a short, bitter sound. "This is absurd," another board member said. "You expect us to believe that some consultant we've never heard of found major fraud that our entire due diligence team missed? I expect you to look at the evidence." Lily pulled up the revenue data. Meridian claims diversified income across 14 sectors. In reality, 86% comes from rare earth mineral logistics. Here are the actual quarterly breakdowns for the past 3 years. She walked them through it. The phantom revenue, the shell companies, the fabricated supply chain. With each slide, the energy in the room shifted. Skepticism became concentration. Irritation became concern. When she got to the environmental violations, the room went dead quiet. The satellite imagery was damning, dark discharge patterns from processing facilities, visible contamination in waterways, inspection records that simply didn't exist in government databases. "This facility in Malaysia," Lily said, pointing to one of the images, reports spending $3 million annually on waste treatment. According to Malaysian Environmental Ministry records, they haven't filed a single compliance report in 18 months. The waste treatment company they claim to use was shut down 2 years ago for illegal dumping. "How did you access Malaysian government records?" Margaret asked. "They're public. You just have to know where to look. And our due diligence team didn't look. They looked at Meridian's documentation. I looked at external verification. Different approach." Margaret sat back, her expression unreadable. "Continue." Lily showed them the rest. The pattern of violations across 6 countries. The estimated cleanup costs, the potential criminal charges. By the time she finished, 15 faces stared back at her with varying degrees of shock and fury. "Mr. Cole," Margaret said quietly, "did you verify these findings?" Robert and his team spent the weekend cross-checking every claim Ms. Hart made. "Robert?" Robert stood, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Probably hadn't. "We verified approximately 92% of her findings. The remaining 8% we couldn't confirm due to access limitations, but nothing contradicted her analysis. She's right. Meridian is a trap. Then why the hell didn't we see this 8 months ago?" The man in the gray suit was red-faced now, anger radiating off him. "We paid millions for due diligence. We saw what we expected to see," Ethan cut him off. "Meridian gave us exactly what we asked for, and we didn't think to ask for more. That's on us." "It's on your team, you mean?" "It's on all of us." Ethan's voice went cold. Every person in this room signed off on moving forward. We all missed it. Margaret raised a hand, cutting off the argument before it could escalate. "The question now is what we do about it. Ms. Hart, what's your recommendation?" Lily hadn't expected to be asked for strategy. She'd prepared to present data and defend her findings, nothing more. But Margaret Chen was looking at her with sharp eyes that said, "Answer carefully." "Kill the deal," Lily said. "Immediately. Don't renegotiate, don't try to adjust the price. Just walk away. If you proceed in any form, you inherit their liability. Even if you think you can negotiate protections, the criminal exposure alone makes it toxic." "We'll take a reputational hit," someone said. "Backing out of a deal this late, you'll take a bigger hit when the environmental violations go public and you own the company responsible." Lily pulled up one more slide. "I did some modeling. If you back out now, you lose maybe $50 million in sunk costs and take a short-term reputation hit. If you proceed and this breaks, which it will, probably within 6 months, you're looking at class action lawsuits, regulatory sanctions in 6 countries, and criminal investigations that could personally implicate board members who approved the deal knowing about the violations." "We didn't know," the gray suit man said quickly. "You do now," Lily replied. "Which means if you vote to proceed after this presentation, you can't claim ignorance. That's conspiracy." The room erupted, everyone talking over each other, accusations flying, blame being assigned. Margaret let it go for 30 seconds, then slammed her hand on the table. "Enough!" Her voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "We vote. All in favor of terminating the Meridian acquisition effective immediately?" Hands went up, not all at once, but one by one, until every person at the table had raised their hand. "Motion carries unanimously," Margaret said. "Mr. Cole, draft the termination notice and have it to Meridian's board by end of business today. Legal team, prepare for potential blowback. This meeting is adjourned." People stood, gathering papers and tablets, talking in tight clusters. Lily stayed by the presentation screen, suddenly unsure what to do now that her part was over. Ethan appeared next to her. You just killed a $4 billion deal in front of 15 people who are used to getting what they want. How do you feel? Like I might throw up. That's normal. Come on. He guided her out of the conference room, through the maze of offices to a smaller room at the end of the hall. His office, she realized. Corner location, windows on two sides, furniture that was expensive but not showy. Papers everywhere, 3 monitors on the desk. A photo frame turned face down like he didn't want to look at it. Ethan closed the door and leaned against his desk. That was the most brutal board meeting I've had in 5 years, and I've had some bad ones. You held your ground. I'm impressed. They wanted to kill me. They wanted someone to blame, but you gave them facts instead of excuses, and facts are harder to argue with. He pulled out his phone, typed something. I'm having Diana process your payment. $5,000 per day for 4 days comes to $20,000. You'll have it by tomorrow. $20,000. It wouldn't cover the hospital debt, but it would buy time. Breathing room. What happens now? Lily asked. Now we figure out who the hell set us up. She blinked. What? Meridian didn't create that entire fraud infrastructure by accident. Someone built it specifically to look good enough to pass standard due diligence but fall apart under real scrutiny, which means someone wanted us to buy it, wanted us to inherit that liability. Ethan's expression went hard. Someone tried to destroy this company. I want to know who. That could take months to investigate. Then you better get started. Ethan, I'm a consultant, a temporary one. This isn't... What's your hourly rate at the restaurant? 15 plus tips? Something like that. I'll pay you $200,000 a year, base salary, full benefits, and a bonus structure tied to deals you save or kill. You work directly for me, report to no one else, and your job is to do exactly what you just did, find the things everyone else misses. Lily stared at him. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a career. There's a difference. I don't have the credentials for this. I've been out of the industry for 3 years. You just proved you're better than people who never left. Credentials are paperwork. Results are what matter. He pushed off the desk, walked to the window. I need someone I can trust to tell me the truth, even when it hurts. Everyone else here has an agenda. Board seats they want to protect, bonuses they want to earn, reputations they want to build. You don't have any of that. You just have the work. That makes you dangerous in the best possible way. I have a mother who's sick. Medical appointments, treatments, flexible schedule. Take whatever time you need for her care. I don't care when you work as long as the work gets done. Ethan, $200,000, Lily. That's more than you'd make in 5 years at the restaurant. Think about what that means. Real health care for your mother, actual financial stability. The ability to do the work you're actually good at instead of pretending to be invisible. He wasn't wrong. $200,000 was life-changing money. It was the kind of salary that could actually dig her out of the hole she'd been drowning in. But it was also Ethan Cole's world. Ruthless, high stakes, where people destroyed each other over decimal points and quarterly projections. She'd left that world once because it had eaten her alive. Coming back felt like volunteering to be consumed. I need to think about it, she said. Fair enough. You have until Friday. After that, the offer expires. He pulled a business card from his desk drawer, wrote something on it. My personal attorney. He can review the employment contract, make sure I'm not screwing you over, though I'm not. The offer's legitimate. Lily took the card. Why are you doing this? Doing what? This. Offering me a job, giving me chances. You don't know me. I know you're smart enough to see things others don't, and honest enough to say them out loud even when it costs you. That's rare. Rare enough to invest in. He checked his watch. I have a call in 5 minutes. Diana will handle your paperwork for today's payment. Think about my offer. Really think about it. She left his office in a daze, the business card heavy in her pocket like a stone. Diana met her in the hallway, tablet in hand. Miss Hart, I need your banking information for the wire transfer. Do you have a moment? They went to Diana's office. Smaller than Ethan's, but just as organized. Everything in its place, no wasted space. Diana pulled up forms on her computer while Lily rattled off her routing and account numbers. You're good at this, Diana said while she typed. The board presentation. I've seen people with decades of experience fall apart in front of Margaret Chen. You didn't. I was terrified. Didn't show. That's what matters. Diana hit a few more keys. Payment will process tonight, should be in your account by morning. Is there anything else you need? Lily hesitated. Can I ask you something? Of course. Is he always like this? Ethan, I mean. Does he always move this fast? Diana smiled slightly. Mr. Cole doesn't believe in wasting time. When he sees something valuable, he acts. It's part of what makes him successful. It's also part of what makes him difficult. She closed the laptop. But he's fair. Demanding, but fair. If he's offering you a position, it's because he genuinely believes you're worth it. Or he wants to control the one person who knows how badly his due diligence failed. That too, probably. Mr. Cole always has multiple reasons for everything he does. But the offer is real. I've seen the employment contract he drafted. It's better than what most of our senior analysts have. Lily didn't know what to say to that. Her phone rang. Unknown number, but the area code was local. She answered. Ms. Hart, this is Jeffrey Morrison from Meridian Industries. I'm calling because we've just received a termination notice from Cole Capital regarding our pending acquisition. We'd like to understand the reasoning behind this decision. Lily's stomach dropped. I'm not authorized to discuss. We're aware you conducted an audit that led to this termination. We're prepared to offer you a consulting fee of $500,000 to review our position and provide a second opinion to Mr. Cole. No, I can't do that. $600,000, cash payment, completely confidential. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to hang up now. Ms. Hart, please understand, this deal is critical to Meridian's future. If it falls through because of inaccurate information, the information isn't inaccurate, and this conversation is over. She hung up, hands shaking. Diana was watching her with a careful expression. What did they offer you? $600,000 to change my findings. That's bold, also incredibly stupid on their part. Diana pulled out her own phone. I need to tell Mr. Cole. He'll want to know they're trying to bribe you. It wasn't technically a bribe. It was absolutely a bribe, and the fact that they tried it means you hit something even bigger than environmental fraud. Companies don't throw $600,000 at consultants unless they're desperate. Diana stepped out to make the call, leaving Lily alone in the office. $600,000. More money than she'd ever seen in her life. Enough to pay off every debt, give her mother the best care, never have to worry about bills again. All she had to do was lie. The thought made her feel sick. Diana came back a few minutes later. Mr. Cole wants to see you, now. They went back to Ethan's office. He was on the phone when they arrived, pacing in front of the windows, his voice tight with controlled anger. I don't care what their reasoning is. The deal is dead. If they contact anyone from my team again, we're filing harassment charges. He hung up and turned to Lily. They tried to bribe you. Technically, they offered me a consulting fee. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't sanitize what they did. They tried to pay you to lie. That's a bribe. I turned them down. I know. Diana told me. But the fact that they tried it at all tells me we're dealing with something worse than environmental violations. He pulled up something on his computer. I had our security team start digging into Meridian's ownership structure while you were presenting. Look at this. He turned the monitor toward her. A complex web of shell companies and holding groups, arrows connecting them in a pattern that made Lily's head hurt. Meridian Industries is owned by a private equity firm called Sentinel Capital, Ethan said, which is owned by another holding company, which is owned by a trust based in Luxembourg. I can't trace it past that without subpoena power. But here's what's interesting. Sentinel Capital has tried to sell Meridian 3 times in the past 2 years. Every deal fell through. Why? That's what I want to know. And I want to know why they targeted us specifically. He pulled up another file. We weren't the only firm in the bidding process. There were 4 others, all backed out early. We were the only ones stupid enough to stay in. We're the only ones with enough capital to make it worth their time. Maybe, but it feels targeted. Like someone wanted specifically us to buy this mess. His expression went dark. I don't like being played. What are you going to do? Find out who's behind Sentinel Capital and why they're so desperate to unload a toxic asset, which means I need you to go deeper. Follow the money, find the connections, figure out who benefits from us imploding. Ethan, I'm not an investigator. You found environmental fraud in 7 hours. You can find this. He sat on the edge of his desk. I need someone who isn't already part of my world. Someone they won't see coming. That's you. This sounds dangerous. It's potentially dangerous, but you'll have resources, legal protection, whatever you need. Lily thought about the offer. $200,000 a year to chase shadows and expose people who had $600,000 in bribe money lying around. People who built elaborate fraud schemes and didn't hesitate to buy their way out of consequences. She thought about her mother, in remission, but always one bad test away from another crisis. She thought about the debt that never stopped growing no matter how many shifts she worked or how little she spent on herself. She thought about being invisible. I want it in writing, she said finally. The job offer, legal protection, everything. Ethan smiled, actually smiled, and it changed his whole face. Diana, draft the employment contract, full legal protections, indemnification for investigative work, and a signing bonus of $50,000. I didn't ask for a signing bonus. You're getting one anyway. You'll need it to cover the gap between now and your first paycheck. He stood, extended his hand. Welcome to Cole Capital, Lily Hart. She shook his hand, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her like a coat she wasn't sure fit right. When do I start? You already did. Diana will set you up with an office, equipment, access credentials. You report directly to me. No one else needs to know what you're working on. That's going to raise questions. Let them question. I don't owe explanations to anyone except the board, and they just watched you save them from a $6 billion disaster. They're not going to complain. Diana appeared in the doorway. Mr. Cole, you have the Rothman call in 2 minutes. Right. Lily, go with Diana. Get settled. We'll talk strategy tomorrow morning. He was already pulling up files on his computer, shifting back into whatever deal demanded his attention next. Lily followed Diana out, her mind spinning. She just agreed to investigate a conspiracy involving billions of dollars and people who casually offered six-figure bribes. She'd just taken a job working for a man who moved through the world like he owned it and made decisions in seconds that would take other people weeks to consider. She'd just stopped being invisible. Diana led her to an office 3 doors down from Ethan's. Smaller, but still with windows. Still with the view of Manhattan spreading out below like a promise or a threat. This is yours, Diana said. Computer, phone, access to all internal systems. I'll have IT set up your credentials within the hour. Do you need anything else? Lily looked around the office. Her office. A space that belonged to her in a building full of people reshaping the world. Yeah, she said quietly. I need to understand what the hell I just got myself into. Diana's expression softened slightly. You got yourself into Ethan Cole's inner circle. It's brutal, it's demanding, and it will consume your life if you let it. But if you're as good as I think you are, it might be the best decision you've ever made. She left Lily alone in the empty office. Lily sat in the chair behind the desk, expensive, ergonomic, the kind of chair that said someone's comfort mattered here, and pulled out her phone. She had a text from the hospital billing department, a reminder about the $8,000 payment due Friday. She texted back, "Payment coming Friday. Thank you for your patience." Then she looked out at the city, at all those buildings full of people making moves and breaking rules and fighting for their piece of whatever this all meant. 3 days ago, she'd been invisible, a ghost pouring wine for people who never saw her. Now she was hunting whoever had tried to destroy Ethan Cole's empire. She didn't know if she was ready for this, but she was going to find out. 2 weeks into her new life, Lily learned that being visible came with a price. The hostile stares started on day 3. Whispered conversations that stopped when she walked past. People who'd never acknowledged her existence suddenly had opinions about the woman Ethan Cole had plucked from nowhere and installed 3 doors from his own office. She tried to ignore it, kept her head down, did her work, stayed in her lane. But the building had a way of making you feel watched, like the glass walls weren't just architectural choices, but deliberate reminders that privacy was an illusion here. On Thursday of her second week, she found out exactly who was leading the campaign against her. His name was Vincent Marsh. Senior Director of Acquisitions, 15 years at Cole Capital, and according to the company directory, responsible for more successful deals than anyone else in the firm. He had an office on the 50th floor, executive level, and a reputation for being brilliant, ruthless, and completely intolerant of anyone who made him look bad. Lily had made him look very bad. She was in the break room getting coffee when she heard his voice carrying from around the corner. loud enough that he either didn't care who heard or wanted people to hear. I don't care what Cole says, this is insulting. We spend 8 months on due diligence and some waitress waltzes in and declares it all garbage? It's a joke. Vincent, lower your voice. That was someone else, quieter. Why? Everyone's thinking it. Cole brought in an outsider because he doesn't trust his own team. That's what this is really about. He's lost faith in the people who built this company. She found real problems. She found what she was told to find. You think Cole didn't already know about the Meridian issues? This whole thing was theater. Kill the deal, blame it on the new girl, and the board thinks he's decisive instead of incompetent. Lily's hand tightened on her coffee cup. That's a serious accusation, the other voice said. It's the truth. And now we're all supposed to just accept that this nobody has access to our most sensitive deals? She could be selling information to competitors for all we know. We don't know anything about her. Cole vetted her. Cole's sleeping with her, obviously. Why else would he give someone with 0 credentials this much access? The words hit like a slap. Lily stood frozen in the hallway, coffee cup burning her hand, while Vincent Marsh destroyed her credibility with casual lies that would spread through the building faster than she could deny them. She should walk away, should pretend she hadn't heard, should be smart. Instead, she rounded the corner. Vincent stood with 2 other men from the acquisitions team, all expensive suits and confidence. He was older than she'd expected, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of face that had probably been handsome 20 years ago, but had settled into something harder. Ms. Hart. He said her name like it was something distasteful. We were just discussing your impressive rise through the company. I heard. Lily kept her voice level. You think Ethan faked the Meridian problems to cover his own incompetence? I think the timing was convenient. The timing was lucky. If we'd closed that deal, this company would be facing criminal charges right now. According to you, according to Malaysian Environmental Ministry records, Singaporean corporate registrations, and satellite imagery, all of which your team had access to and apparently never bothered checking. Vincent's expression went cold. Careful. You're new here. You don't understand how things work. I understand that you're embarrassed you missed a $6 billion trap, and instead of owning it, you're spreading lies about me to protect your ego. One of the other men shifted uncomfortably. Vincent, maybe we should... Stay out of this, Carter. Vincent stepped closer to Lily, using his height to intimidate. Let me make something very clear, Ms. Hart. I've been at this firm for 15 years. I've closed deals worth $50 billion. I have relationships with every major player in 3 industries. You have a high school education and a resume that stops 3 years ago. So when you come into my building and disrespect my work, you better have more than Ethan Cole's infatuation backing you up. I have facts backing me up. That's more than you had. Facts you conveniently discovered in 7 hours. Forgive me if I find that suspicious. Find it whatever you want. The board believed me. That's what matters. Vincent smiled, and it was ugly. The board humored you because Cole pushed them too. But they know what you are. A stunt. A way for Cole to deflect blame and look decisive. Once the novelty wears off, you'll be gone, and we'll go back to doing actual work. Is there a problem here? Ethan's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He stood in the hallway behind Lily, expression neutral but eyes sharp. Vincent's smile didn't waver. No problem, just getting to know our newest team member. By accusing her of sleeping her way into a job? Ethan's voice was dangerously quiet. I never said that. You said it 30 seconds ago. I heard you from my office. Ethan walked past Lily, stopping directly in front of Vincent. Let me make something very clear to everyone in this building. Lily Hart is here because she's better at finding problems than anyone I've ever worked with. Her credentials are none of your business. Her relationship with me is professional, and if I hear anyone suggesting otherwise, they're fired immediately. No discussion, no severance. Clear? The hallway had gone silent. People had stopped at their desks to watch. Vincent's jaw tightened. Crystal. Good. Now get back to work. All of you. The men dispersed quickly. Vincent shot Lily one last look, pure hatred wrapped in a professional mask, before walking away. Ethan turned to Lily. My office, now. She followed him, feeling the weight of every stare tracking their movement. Once the door closed, Ethan rounded on her. What the hell was that? He was spreading lies, so let him. You think confronting Vincent Marsh in a hallway is going to stop office gossip? You just made yourself a bigger target. I wasn't going to stand there and let him. Yes, you were. That's exactly what you were going to do, because fighting with senior directors in public makes you look defensive and him look reasonable. Ethan sat on the edge of his desk, rubbing his temples. Vincent is threatened by you. That makes him dangerous. The smart move is to ignore him and let your work speak for itself. He said you're sleeping with me. I know what he said. I also know it's bullshit, and anyone with half a brain knows it's bullshit. But you engaging with it gives the rumor legitimacy. Lily felt heat rise in her face. So I'm just supposed to smile and take it? You're supposed to be smarter than the people trying to tear you down. His voice softened slightly. Look, I get it. You're used to fighting for yourself. But this building works differently. Direct confrontation makes you look weak. What makes you strong is being so good at your job that they can't touch you. That's easy for you to say. You're Ethan Cole. Nobody questions you. Everyone questions me. They're just smart enough to do it behind closed doors instead of to my face. He stood, walked to the window. Vincent has been trying to undermine me for 3 years. He wants my job. Thinks he's earned it because he's been here longer. Bringing you in threatened him because it proved I don't need him as much as he thought I did. So I'm a pawn in your power struggle. You're a wild card. There's a difference. He turned back to her. Vincent will keep pushing, testing you, trying to make you fail. The best thing you can do is ignore him and focus on the work. Speaking of which, have you made progress on Sentinel Capital? The subject change was deliberate. Lily recognized the tactic. Redirect, move forward, don't dwell. She took a breath and pulled out her tablet. I traced the ownership structure back 5 layers. Sentinel Capital is owned by a trust called Vanguard Holdings, which is owned by another trust, which is owned by a corporation registered in Luxembourg. That's where the trail goes cold. Luxembourg privacy laws make it nearly impossible to pierce corporate veils without a court order. So we're stuck. Not entirely. I found something else. She pulled up a file. Sentinel has a board of directors, 7 members, all clean on the surface. But one of them, Marcus Hartley, used to work for Cole Capital. Ethan went very still. When? 8 years ago. He was a junior analyst in your acquisitions division, left after 18 months. No drama, just moved to another firm. I don't remember him. You probably wouldn't. He was low level. But here's what's interesting. 6 months after he left Cole Capital, he joined Sentinel Capital's advisory board. 3 years after that, he was promoted to full board member. Now he's their vice chairman. That's not necessarily suspicious. People move between firms all the time. True. But look at the timing of Sentinel's attempted sales of Meridian. Lily pulled up a timeline. First attempt was 2 years ago. They approached Sterling Group, your main competitor. Deal fell through after preliminary due diligence. Second attempt was 18 months ago. Archer Capital also fell through. Third attempt was you. And Marcus Hartley was personally involved in selecting which firms to approach. Ethan studied the timeline. You think Marcus is targeting me specifically? I think someone with inside knowledge of how Cole Capital operates would know exactly how to structure a deal to pass your standard due diligence while hiding fatal flaws. I think Marcus fits that profile. But why? What does he gain from us buying a toxic asset? That's what I haven't figured out yet. But there's more. Lily pulled up another file. I dug into Marcus's financial records, publicly available stuff, tax filings, property records. 6 months ago, he bought a house in the Hamptons for $8 million. Cash. No mortgage. Senior executives make good money. Not that good. His salary from Sentinel is documented at $400,000 annually. Even with bonuses and investment income, an $8 million cash purchase doesn't make sense unless he has income we can't see. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Someone paid him to set this up, to push the Meridian deal toward us specifically. That's my theory. But I can't prove it without access to his actual bank records, and that requires legal authority we don't have. Ethan paced the length of his office. Okay, different approach. If Marcus was paid to target us, whoever paid him benefits from Cole Capital imploding. Who are our biggest competitors? Sterling Group, Archer Capital, Titanium Holdings. All 3 are in direct competition for the same deals you are. but none of them would risk a conspiracy this elaborate just to take out one competitor. The legal exposure is too high. Unless it's personal, Lily said quietly. Ethan stopped pacing. What? What if this isn't about business? What if someone has a personal reason to want to destroy you? That's a long list. I'm serious. Think about it. This whole setup feels targeted. They didn't just want any firm to buy Meridian. They wanted you specifically. That suggests personal motivation, not just competitive advantage. Ethan walked back to his desk, pulled open a drawer, and took out a bottle of scotch. He poured 2 glasses without asking if she wanted one. There's a man named Richard Grayson, he said, handing her a glass. We used to be partners. Built Cole Capital together from nothing. He was the visionary. I was the executor. We were going to take over the world. He drank. Lily waited. 7 years ago, we disagreed on strategy. Richard wanted to expand into emerging markets, high risk, high reward. I wanted to consolidate our position in established sectors. We fought about it for months. Eventually, I bought him out, paid him fair market value, gave him references, wished him well. But he didn't see it that way. He saw it as a betrayal, thought I stole his company. Ethan refilled his glass. Last I heard, he was running his own firm, smaller operation but successful. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Could he be behind this? Richard's ambitious, not stupid. A conspiracy this complex would require resources, connections, people willing to commit fraud. I don't know if he has that kind of reach. But it's possible. It's possible. Ethan set down his glass. Look into it, quietly. I don't want this turning into a witch hunt based on old grudges. Understood. Lily's phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Conference room C. 10 minutes. Urgent. She showed Ethan. He checked his own phone and swore softly. What is it? Board meeting. Emergency session. They wouldn't call one unless something's very wrong. He grabbed his jacket. Come with me. I'm not on the board. You are now. Emergency advisory capacity. Let's go. They arrived at conference room C to find the entire board already assembled. Margaret Chen sat at the head of the table, expression grim. The energy in the room was thick with tension. Mr. Cole, Miss Hart, sit. Margaret didn't waste time on pleasantries. We have a situation. Vincent Marsh submitted his resignation this morning, along with 6 other senior directors. Lily felt her stomach drop. They're leaving en masse? Ethan's voice was carefully controlled. Not just leaving. They're forming their own firm, taking 14 junior analysts with them, and they've already secured backing from Sterling Group to the tune of $500 million. Silence. Then one of the board members spoke up. This is a coordinated attack. They're trying to gut our acquisitions division right as we're recovering from the Meridian failure. It's not a failure, Ethan said sharply. We avoided a disaster. That's not how the industry sees it. Word is out that we backed out of a $4 billion deal at the last minute. It makes us look uncertain, weak, and now our most experienced team is walking out the door. The board member looked directly at Lily. This is what happens when you bring in outsiders and undermine the people who built this company. That's enough, Gerald, Margaret said. This isn't Ms. Hart's fault, isn't it? Vincent's resignation letter specifically mentions loss of confidence in leadership and decision-making. He's talking about the Meridian situation. Lily found her voice. Vincent's ego couldn't handle being wrong. That's not my fault. Your presence here destabilized a team that was functioning perfectly well, said, They almost cost us $6 billion. Lily stood, anger overriding caution. That's not functioning well. That's catastrophic failure. And if Vincent Marsh wants to leave because he can't admit that, then we're better off without him. We're better off without our entire acquisitions team? Gerald's face was red. Do you have any idea what you've done? This company runs on relationships and reputation. You've damaged both. I've protected this company from criminal liability. You've created a crisis. Gerald turned to Ethan. This is your responsibility. You brought her in, you deal with the fallout. Get Vincent back. Apologize, offer him whatever he wants, but stop this hemorrhaging before we lose everything. Ethan's expression was ice. No. Excuse me? I said no. If Vincent wants to leave, he can leave. Anyone who wants to follow him can go too. I'm not begging people to stay who don't trust my judgment. That's suicide. That's leadership. I make decisions based on what's right for this company, not what's comfortable for people's egos. If Vincent can't handle that, he doesn't belong here. Margaret raised her hand again. Gentlemen, this isn't productive. The question isn't whether Vincent leaves. That's already decided. The question is how we mitigate the damage. Mr. Cole, can your remaining team handle the current deal load? We'll make it work. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. Give me 2 weeks. I'll restructure the division, redistribute responsibilities, and bring in new talent if needed. But I'm not compromising on standards to keep people who undermine this company. Margaret studied him for a long moment. 2 weeks. If we're still bleeding personnel or losing deals, we'll need to have a different conversation. Clear? Clear. Meeting adjourned. People filed out, some shooting sympathetic looks at Ethan, others glaring at Lily like she'd personally destroyed their lives. When the room was empty except for the two of them, Ethan sat down heavily. That went well, Lily said quietly. That was a disaster. He looked exhausted. Vincent just took 25% of my workforce. Deals are going to slip, clients are going to panic, and the board is looking for someone to blame. They're blaming me. They're blaming both of us. Difference is, I actually have the authority to fix this. You're just caught in the crossfire. Lily sat down next to him. I'm sorry. If I'd known this would happen, don't. You did the right thing. The fact that it caused problems doesn't make it wrong. He rubbed his eyes. I just need to figure out how to hold this company together with half a team and a board that's losing faith. What can I do? Keep digging into Marcus and Richard. If this is a coordinated attack, I need to know who's pulling the strings before they make their next move. Lily's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Hart? This is Tom Chen. I'm a project manager for Northern Mining Operations. I got your name from a colleague who said you're someone who asks good questions. I'm sorry, who are you? I'm calling about the Blackstone acquisition. I heard Cole Capital is interested in purchasing the operation. I wanted to talk to you before the deal goes through. Lily's pulse quickened. I'm not authorized to discuss. I'm not asking for proprietary information. I'm trying to warn you. Blackstone's financials look solid, but there's something wrong with the operation. I've been trying to tell people for months, but nobody listens to guys like me. What kind of wrong? The kind that matters. Can we meet? Off the record. I just want someone to actually look at what I'm seeing before another deal goes bad. Lily looked at Ethan. He was watching her, curious. When and where? She asked. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. There's a diner on 8th Avenue, corner of 42nd. I'll be in the back booth. How will I recognize you? I'll recognize you. Just come alone. If company people show up, I'm gone. The line went dead. What was that about? Ethan asked. Someone wants to talk about the Blackstone deal. Says there's problems nobody's seen. Ethan straightened. Blackstone is one of our biggest active acquisitions. $3 billion. Vincent was leading that deal before he quit. This guy says he's been trying to raise red flags for months. Then why call you instead of our team? Because our team apparently doesn't listen to guys like him, which usually means lower-level employee, someone without authority who sees things the executives miss. Ethan stood. You're going to that meeting. He said to come alone. Then go alone. But wear a wire and keep your phone's location on. If this is another setup, you think Vincent would use a random caller to lure me somewhere? I think Vincent just lost his position, his reputation, and probably his future. And angry people do desperate things. So yes, I think it's possible. He pulled out his phone. I'm having security set up the wire. You meet this Tom Chen, you listen to what he has to say, and you get out. Clear? Clear? But as Lily left his office, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Tom Chen wanted to tell her was going to make the Meridian situation look simple by comparison. The next afternoon, she sat in a worn vinyl booth at a diner that smelled like coffee and decades of grease, waiting for a stranger who might be offering help or setting a trap. At 3:07, a man slid into the seat across from her. Mid-50s, weathered face, hands that had done actual labor. He wore a jacket with the Blackstone Mining logo on it. Ms. Hart? Not a question. Mr. Chen? Tom? Nobody calls me Mr. He glanced around the diner, nervous. You come alone? Yes? Phone? Lily put her phone face up on the table. Tom relaxed slightly. Okay, thanks for coming. I know this is weird, but I didn't know who else to call. Tell me about Blackstone. I've worked there 12 years, started as equipment operator, worked up to project manager for the North Ridge site. It's a good operation, good people. But about 18 months ago, things started changing. What kind of changes? Management brought in outside consultants, said they were optimizing operations, improving efficiency, started pushing us to increase extraction rates, cut safety protocols, delay maintenance. When we pushed back, they replaced senior staff with people who do what they were told. Lily felt a chill. Did you document any of this? I tried. But the new people control all the records now. Anything that shows actual operations versus reported operations gets buried. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket, slid it across the table. This is everything I could copy before they locked me out of the systems. Production reports, safety violations, equipment failure logs, all the stuff that doesn't match what they're telling potential buyers. Lily picked up the flash drive. Why are you giving this to me? Because Coal Capital is about to buy a mine that's running on borrowed time. The extraction rates they're reporting, impossible without destroying the structural integrity. The safety record they're claiming? Fiction. In 6 months, maybe a year, that mine is going to collapse. And everyone working there, good people, people with families, they're going to die because management cared more about selling the operation than keeping it safe. You could take this to OSHA, federal regulators. I did. Filed 3 reports. All of them disappeared into bureaucracy. Nobody cares about one site manager screaming about safety until people actually die. By then, it's too late. He looked at her with tired eyes. I heard you killed the Meridian deal, saved Coal Capital from something bad. I'm asking you to do it again. Look at what's on that drive. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm right and you buy this operation anyway, those deaths are on all of us. Lily closed her hand around the flash drive. I'll look into it. That's all I'm asking. Tom stood. They're watching me now. I can't meet again. Whatever you find, you're on your own. He left the diner without looking back. Lily sat alone with the flash drive, feeling its weight like an anchor. She'd thought the Meridian fraud was as bad as it got. Environmental violations, fake documentation, corporate conspiracy. But this was different. This was people's lives. Real, immediate danger hidden behind fabricated reports and profit margins. She pulled out her phone and called Ethan. I've got something, she said when he answered, and you're not going to like it. Tell me. Not over the phone. I'm coming back now. The drive back to the office felt like moving through fog. Lily kept thinking about Tom Chen's face, the resignation in his voice, a man who'd tried to do the right thing through proper channels and been ignored until his only option was to hand classified documents to a stranger in a diner. When she got back to Coal Capital, Ethan was waiting in her office. She handed him the flash drive. Blackstone mining is a death trap waiting to happen. The extraction rates they're reporting are physically impossible without structural compromise. Safety protocols are being ignored. Equipment is failing, and management is covering it all up to make the sale look clean. Ethan plugged the drive into her computer, started opening files. His expression got darker with each document. How reliable is this source? He's a 12-year site manager who's filed multiple OSHA complaints that went nowhere. He has nothing to gain from lying to me. He has a lot to gain from sabotaging a sale that might cost him his job. Then look at the data. Production reports versus equipment capacity, safety violation logs versus reported incidents. It doesn't add up. Ethan spent 20 minutes going through the files. When he finally looked up, his face was carefully blank. This is bad, he said quietly. It's worse than Meridian. At least Meridian was just fraud. This is people dying. If it's real. You think it's fake? I think we need to verify before we blow up another $3 billion deal based on an anonymous tip. He pulled out his phone. I'm sending a team to do an independent site inspection. Unannounced, full access, complete structural analysis. Vincent was leading this deal. What if he's the one who buried the safety concerns? Ethan went very still. What? Think about it. Vincent leaves, takes his whole team with him, and suddenly someone's calling me about problems with Vincent's biggest active deal? That's not coincidence. You think Vincent knowingly pushed a deal on a mine that could collapse? I think Vincent cared more about his commission than anything else. And I think when I killed Meridian, he panicked that someone might actually look at his other deals. Ethan sat down processing. If that's true, if Vincent actively hid safety violations to close a deal, that's criminal negligence at minimum, potentially manslaughter if the mine fails, which gives him a very good reason to get out before it all comes down, and form his own firm with Sterling Group's backing. Ethan's expression hardened. He's not just running from consequences. He's setting up somewhere new before the consequences hit. Lily felt pieces clicking into place. What if it's all connected? Marcus Hartley targets us with Meridian. Vincent's deals start looking suspicious. He panics, quits, and takes everyone loyal to him before the investigation spreads. That would mean Vincent and Marcus are working together, or working for the same person. Lily pulled up her earlier research on Richard Grayson. Your former partner, the one with a grudge. What if he's orchestrating all of this? Use Marcus to set the Meridian trap. Use Vincent to bury problems in other deals. Wait for everything to explode and destroy Cole Capital from the inside. Ethan stared at the screen, at Richard Grayson's professional headshot. Successful, confident, smiling like he'd already won. That's a conspiracy theory, he said, finally. It's a pattern, and patterns don't lie. We still need proof. Then let's get it. Lily pulled up her contact list. I know someone, former colleague from my old firm. She specializes in corporate investigations, forensic accounting, the whole package. If anyone can trace connections between Richard, Marcus, and Vincent, it's her. How much will she cost? For me? She'll do it as a favor. We went through something together a long time ago. She owes me. Ethan looked at her with something like respect. Make the call. Lily stepped out into the hallway, phone already dialing. The call connected on the second ring. Lily Hart, haven't heard from you in 3 years. You finally get tired of hiding? Hey, Sarah, I need help. Obviously. What kind? The kind that involves very rich, very angry men trying to destroy each other. You interested? Sarah laughed. When do I start? Sarah Chen arrived 72 hours later with 2 laptops, a hard drive the size of a briefcase, and the kind of energy that came from someone who treated corporate espionage like a competitive sport. She was everything Lily had forgotten about her old life. Sharp, relentless, unwilling to accept surface answers when there were deeper truths buried underneath. They'd worked together at Whitmore for 18 months before Lily's mother got sick, before everything fell apart. Sarah had been the one person who'd told Lily the truth when she left, that stepping away meant never coming back, that the industry didn't forgive absence. Turned out Sarah had been wrong about that last part. Nice office, Sarah said, dropping her equipment on Lily's desk without asking. Better than that restaurant you were hiding in. I wasn't hiding. You were absolutely hiding, but that's ancient history. Sarah pulled up a chair, cracked her knuckles like she was about to perform surgery. Tell me what we're hunting. Lily laid it out. Richard Grayson, Ethan's former partner with a grudge. Marcus Hartley, the Sentinel Capital board member who used to work at Cole Capital. Vincent Marsh, the senior director who'd quit and taken half the acquisitions team with him. And underneath it all, 2 deals that stank of deliberate sabotage, Meridian and Blackstone. Sarah listened without interrupting, fingers already flying across her keyboard, pulling up databases and cross-referencing information. So you think Richard's coordinating a revenge plot, she said when Lily finished, using Marcus to push toxic deals and Vincent to bury problems until everything explodes. That's the theory. It's a good theory. Let me prove it. Sarah's screens filled with data, financial records, corporate registrations, email metadata. First step, follow the money. If Richard's funding this operation, there'll be traces. Payments to Marcus, investments in Vincent's new firm, money moving through channels they think are hidden. How long will that take? Depends on how sloppy they were. Give me 12 hours. Sarah worked like a machine. Barely spoke, barely ate, just consumed information and spit out connections. By midnight, she had the first thread. Marcus Hartley received a wire transfer 6 months ago, she said, pointing at her screen. $2 million from a shell company registered in the British Virgin Islands. 3 weeks later, he bought that Hamptons house you mentioned. Can you trace the shell company? Already did. It's owned by another company, which is owned by a trust, which is owned by, guess who, Richard Grayson's private equity firm. Lily felt her pulse spike. That's direct payment from Richard to Marcus for services rendered. And look at the timing. This payment came right after Meridian first approached Cole Capital about acquisition discussions. Richard paid Marcus to push that deal. What about Vincent? Sarah pulled up another screen. Vincent's new firm, Marsh Capital, received $500 million in backing from Sterling Group. But Sterling's not the only investor. There's a silent partner. Want to guess who? Richard. Bingo. He put in $100 million through yet another shell company. Vincent probably doesn't even know Richard's involved. He thinks he's just getting Sterling's money. Lily sat back, processing. So, Richard pays Marcus to target us with Meridian. When that fails, he has Vincent, who's already panicking about his own buried deals, quit and take the team with him. The goal wasn't just one bad acquisition. It was systematic destruction from multiple angles. Classic corporate warfare, death by 1,000 cuts. Sarah kept typing. But here's where it gets interesting. I pulled Richard's firm's financial statements. He's overextended, massively. He's got 3 major deals in play, all of them leveraged to the breaking point. If even one fails, his whole operation collapses. Which means he's desperate. Which means he needs Cole Capital to implode so he can swoop in and buy the pieces cheap. Rebuild his partnership with Ethan, except this time he's in control. Sarah looked up. This isn't just revenge. It's a hostile takeover disguised as bad luck. The door opened. Ethan walked in, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. Please tell me you have something. Sarah grinned. I have everything. Pull up a chair, Mr. Cole. You're going to want to see this. She walked him through the connections, the payments, the shell companies, the timing that was too perfect to be coincidence. By the time she finished, Ethan's expression had gone from exhausted to furious. Richard's behind all of it, he said quietly. Meridian, Vincent's exodus, the whole thing. And he's counting on you not figuring it out until it's too late, Sarah said. Which brings us to the next question. What are you going to do about it? Ethan looked at Lily. What's the status on Blackstone? The inspection team found exactly what Tom Chen said they'd find. Structural instability, safety violations, fabricated maintenance records. The mine could collapse within 6 months if operations continue at current extraction rates. And Vincent knew. He had to. The reports were flagged multiple times by site managers. He ignored them all. Ethan pulled out his phone, made a call. Diana, I need you to draft a termination notice for the Blackstone acquisition. Legal grounds, site safety violations, and fraudulent reporting. Have it ready in 2 hours. He paused. And get me a meeting with the SEC, tomorrow if possible. I'm filing a formal complaint against Sentinel Capital for fraud and conspiracy. He hung up and turned to Sarah. How much of this can you document with evidence that'll hold up in court? About 80%. The rest is circumstantial but strong. Get it all compiled. Financial records, wire transfers, corporate registrations, everything. I want a complete case file by Monday morning. You're going after Richard directly, Lily said. I'm going after everyone involved. Richard, Marcus, Vincent, all of them. They wanted to destroy Cole Capital. Fine. Let's see how they handle having their entire conspiracy exposed in federal court. That's risky, Sarah warned. People with this much money to lose will fight back hard. Then they can fight me in court instead of in shadows. I'm done playing defensive. Ethan looked at Lily. You still have that flash drive from Tom Chen? Yes. Copy everything on it. Give it to the inspection team for Blackstone's regulatory filing. If Vincent buried safety violations, I want him criminally liable when that mine fails. Lily felt something cold settle in her stomach. Ethan, that could put him in prison. Good. He endangered people's lives for a commission check. He deserves prison. What about the workers? The people still at that mine? We're issuing an immediate safety shutdown recommendation to Blackstone's current management. Whether they listen is on them. Our responsibility ends at not buying a death trap. It was the right call. Lily knew it was the right call. But watching Ethan make it, cold, calculated, no hesitation, reminded her that he wasn't just fighting for justice. He was fighting to win. And winning meant crushing anyone who got in his way, deserving or not. Sarah left around 2 a.m. to get some sleep. Ethan stayed, going through documents, making calls, building his case like he was assembling a weapon. Lily should have left too, should have gone home, gotten rest. Instead, she sat in her office thinking about Tom Chen. a site manager who'd tried to do the right thing and been ignored. About the workers at Blackstone who went into that mine every day not knowing the ground beneath them was unstable. About her mother, lying in a hospital bed 3 years ago while Lily burned through every dollar she had trying to save her. The world wasn't fair. Rich people played games with billions while regular people just tried to survive. But somewhere in that gap between power and powerlessness, there had to be room for people who refused to choose sides. People who just did what was right, even when it cost them everything. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Ms. Hart," a woman's voice, professional but strained. "My name is Jennifer Marsh. I'm Vincent's wife. I need to talk to you about Blackstone." Lily's hand tightened on the phone. "Mrs. Marsh, I don't think—" "Please, just listen. Vincent didn't bury those safety reports because he's a bad person. He buried them because someone told him to." "Who?" "I don't know the name, but Vincent's been getting calls for months. Pressure to keep certain deals moving, to overlook problems, to prioritize speed over diligence. He was scared. Whoever's behind this threatened him, said if he didn't cooperate, they'd destroy his career and go after our family." "Do you have proof of these calls?" "No." "Vincent deleted everything. But I'm telling you the truth. My husband made terrible choices, but he's not the monster you think he is. He's just a man who got in over his head and didn't know how to get out." Lily thought about that. About how easy it was to judge people's choices when you weren't the one drowning. About how the world sorted people into heroes and villains when most of them were just trying to survive. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Mercy. When this goes public, and I know it will, please remember that Vincent has 2 kids and a wife who depend on him. He made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to lose everything. People could have died because of his mistakes. I know, and he'll have to live with that. But please, if there's any way to show that he was coerced, that he wasn't acting alone, don't let him take the fall for people more powerful than he is." The line went dead. Lily sat in the dark office, phone still in her hand, thinking about guilt and responsibility and the difference between justice and revenge. She found Ethan still working in his office, papers spread across every surface. "Jennifer Marsh just called me," she said. He looked up. "What did she want?" "To tell me Vincent was coerced, that someone's been pressuring him to bury problems and push deals through." "Convenient excuse." "Maybe, or maybe it's true. Does it matter? He still made the choice to endanger people. But if he was threatened, if someone more powerful was pulling strings, then he's a victim too, just a different kind." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "You want me to go easy on him?" "I want you to be fair. There's a difference between someone who creates corruption and someone who gets trapped by it. Vincent had choices. He could have come to me, could have gone to the authorities, could have quit before people died, and lost everything? His job, his reputation, maybe his family's safety? You're asking him to be a hero when he was just trying to survive. Survival doesn't excuse betrayal." "No, but maybe it explains it." Lily sat down. "You told me once that everyone chooses, that some choices just hurt more than others. Vincent chose wrong, but he chose under pressure from people more powerful than him. If we destroy him completely, we're just doing Richard's work for him." Ethan was quiet for a long time. "What are you suggesting?" "Expose Richard. Expose Marcus. Show that Vincent was a pawn in a larger conspiracy. He still faces consequences for his choices, but we don't crush him beyond recovery. That's mercy he doesn't deserve. Maybe, but mercy isn't about deserving it. It's about being better than the people who showed you none." Ethan studied her face. "You're too soft for this world, and you're too hard for it. Maybe between us we find something that actually works." He almost smiled. "You're serious about this?" "I'm serious about not becoming the kind of person who destroys people just because I can. We have the power to ruin Vincent's life. That doesn't mean we should use it." Ethan turned back to his documents. "I'll think about it." It wasn't agreement, but it wasn't refusal either. Lily took it and left him alone. The next 72 hours moved like a storm. Sarah finished documenting the conspiracy and handed Ethan a case file 3 inches thick. The SEC opened an investigation into Sentinel Capital. Blackstone's board issued an emergency safety shutdown of the North Ridge mine, pending structural assessment. And then Richard Grayson made his move. He called a press conference. stood in front of cameras and reporters and announced that he was filing a lawsuit against Cole Capital for tortious interference, claiming Ethan had deliberately sabotaged legitimate business deals to damage competitors. "Ethan Cole has built his empire on destroying others," Richard said, looking sincere and wounded. "He used inside information to kill the Meridian acquisition, costing investors billions. He spread false safety concerns about Blackstone mining to eliminate competition. And when senior directors questioned his methods, he forced them out. This isn't business. It's tyranny." The story ran on every financial network. Within hours, Cole Capital's stock dropped 15%. Clients started calling, worried. The board scheduled another emergency meeting. Lily watched it all unfold from her office, feeling sick. Ethan appeared in her doorway. "He's good. I'll give him that. He's lying." Of course he's lying, but he's lying publicly, with just enough truth mixed in that people will believe him. That's how this works. So what do? We prove he's lying. Sarah's evidence shows Richard funded the conspiracy. We just need to make it public in a way that destroys his credibility before he destroys ours. The SEC investigation. Will take months. We don't have months. We need something now. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling a board meeting. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. We're presenting everything, the financial trails, the conspiracy, all of it. If the board backs me, we go public with the evidence and bury Richard before he can do more damage. And if they don't back you?" Ethan's expression went cold. "Then I lose the company I built and Richard wins, but that's not going to happen." The confidence in his voice didn't match the tension in his shoulders. The board meeting the next morning felt like a trial. 15 faces staring at Ethan and Lily like they were defendants who'd already been found guilty. Margaret Chen started without preamble. "Mr. Cole, your former partner has accused you of criminal interference in multiple business transactions. The accusations are public, damaging, and need to be addressed immediately. What do you have to say?" Ethan stood. "Everything Richard Grayson said is a lie designed to cover his own conspiracy to destroy this company, and I can prove it." He nodded to Sarah, who pulled up the first slide. Financial records showing wire transfers from Richard's shell companies to Marcus Hartley. Corporate documents linking Richard to Vincent's new firm. Emails recovered from Sentinel Capital's servers showing coordination between Marcus and Richard on the Meridian deal. The board watched in silence as Sarah walked them through 2 years of calculated sabotage. "Richard Grayson has spent millions trying to destroy Cole Capital," Ethan said when Sarah finished. "Not because we wronged him, but because he couldn't accept that I bought him out 7 years ago. This isn't about business ethics. It's about revenge disguised as competition." "This evidence," Margaret said carefully, "where did it come from?" "Independent investigation conducted by a forensic accountant I hired." "Was any of it obtained illegally?" "All of it came from public records, legally accessible databases, and information provided by whistleblowers. Nothing that wouldn't hold up in court." Gerald, the board member who'd blamed Lily for Vincent's departure, spoke up. "Even if this is true, even if Richard coordinated this conspiracy, your actions still destabilized our acquisitions division. We've lost key personnel and multiple deals have fallen through." "We lost personnel who were actively working against us," Ethan said flatly. "And the deals that fell through would have destroyed us. I'll take that trade every time." That's easy to say when you're not the one facing investor lawsuits and stock price collapses. I am facing those things, right alongside all of you. The difference is I'm fighting back instead of accepting defeat. By making accusations you can't fully prove, I can prove all of it. Ethan's voice went hard. The question is whether this board has the spine to stand behind the evidence, or if you'd rather sacrifice me to Richard Grayson's PR campaign. The room went silent. Margaret looked at each board member in turn. "We need to vote. All in favor of supporting Mr. Cole's position and making this evidence public?" Hands went up. Slowly at first, then more. When the count finished, 12 out of 15 had voted in support. "Motion carries," Margaret said. "Mr. Cole, you have the board's backing to proceed, but understand, if this backfires, if Richard finds a way to turn this against us, we will hold you accountable." "Understood." The meeting adjourned. People filed out, talking in low voices. Lily caught up with Ethan in the hallway. "You did it. I bought us time. That's different from winning." He pulled out his phone. "Diana, schedule a press conference for this afternoon, 4 p.m. I want every major financial outlet there." He hung up and looked at Lily. This is it. We go public with everything and hope it's enough to destroy Richard's credibility before he destroys ours. You ready? I'm not the one giving the press conference. No, but you're the one who found the evidence that made it possible. This is as much your fight as mine now. Lily thought about that, about how she'd spent 3 years trying to be invisible, and now she was at the center of a war between billionaires, about how she'd told herself she just wanted to survive and somehow ended up fighting for something bigger. I'm ready, she said. The press conference was brutal. Ethan stood at a podium in front of cameras and hostile reporters, looking like he was carved from stone and systematically dismantled Richard Grayson's entire narrative. He showed the financial evidence, explained the conspiracy, named Marcus Hartley and Vincent Marsh as co-conspirators. And then he did something Lily didn't expect. I want to be clear about something, Ethan said, looking directly into the cameras. Vincent Marsh made terrible choices. He buried safety violations and endangered lives. But he didn't act alone. And he didn't act freely. He was coerced by people more powerful than him, threatened into cooperation. That doesn't excuse his actions, but it explains them. We're cooperating with authorities to ensure everyone involved faces appropriate consequences, but we're also committed to distinguishing between architects of fraud and people who were trapped by it. In the audience, Lily felt something tight in her chest loosen. Mercy. Not because Vincent deserved it, but because being better than your enemies meant refusing to become them. The questions came fast and aggressive after that. Reporters demanding proof, asking about lawsuits, questioning Ethan's motives. He answered every single one with facts and evidence, never losing his composure, never backing down. By the time it ended, Lily's hands were shaking from tension. Sarah appeared next to her. He's good at this. The whole controlled fury thing. He's terrifying at this. That too. Sarah checked her phone. Richard just issued a response. Denies everything. Calls it a desperate fabrication by a man facing his own failures. Standard playbook. Will people believe him? Some will. But Ethan has evidence and Richard has excuses. In the long run, evidence wins. Sarah looked at Lily. You did good work here. Reminded me why I liked working with you. I didn't do this alone. No, but you started it. That waitress who told Ethan his deal was garbage? She saved his company. Don't forget that. Sarah left to catch her flight back to Boston, and Lily was alone with the weight of what they'd just done. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You made a powerful enemy today. Watch your back. No signature, no explanation, just a threat floating in digital space. Lily showed it to Ethan when he finally emerged from the press conference. Richard's people, he said, reading the message. Trying to intimidate you. Is it working? Should it be? Lily thought about that, about fear and power, and the choice to stand up or stay down. No, she said finally. I'm not scared of Richard Grayson. Good, because this isn't over. He'll fight back, file countersuits, try to discredit our evidence. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. And you're still in? I'm still in. Ethan almost smiled. You know what the difference is between you and everyone else in this building? What? They're here because it's a good job with good money. You're here because you actually give a damn about doing what's right. That's rare. Don't lose it. Before Lily could respond, Diana appeared looking stressed. Mr. Cole, we have a situation. Tom Chen, the Blackstone site manager, he just went public with his story. He's giving interviews about the safety violations and naming Cole Capital as the company that actually listened to him. Ethan swore. That's going to complicate things. Actually, it might help, Diana said. He's positioning you as the company that chose safety over profit. It's good PR. It's also going to make us a target for every whistleblower with an axe to grind. Ethan rubbed his temples. Get ahead of it. Issue a statement supporting transparency and safety reporting. Make it clear we take these concerns seriously. Diana left to handle it. See, Ethan said to Lily, worse before it gets better. The next week was a hurricane. Richard filed 3 separate lawsuits. The SEC expanded their investigation to include both companies. Vincent Marsh flipped on Richard in exchange for reduced charges, providing testimony about the coercion and threats. Marcus Hartley fled the country before he could be arrested. Through it all, Lily kept digging, kept finding connections, kept building the case. She barely slept, barely ate, just worked because work was the only thing that made sense. On Friday, she got a call from St. Catherine's Hospital. Ms. Hart, we wanted to let you know that your mother's account has been paid in full, including all outstanding balances and future treatment costs. Lily felt her brain stutter. What? By who? The payment came from Cole Capital's Executive Relief Fund. It's a program for employees facing medical hardship. We received authorization this morning. Lily hung up and walked straight to Ethan's office without knocking. He was on a call but held up a finger. 1 minute. She waited, fury building. When he finally hung up, she said, "You paid my mother's medical bills." "I did." "You had no right." "I have every right. You're my employee. We have a relief fund for exactly this situation." "I didn't ask for charity." "It's not charity. It's compensation. You saved this company twice. Consider it a bonus." $300,000 is not a bonus, Ethan. It's what you're worth. And I'm tired of watching you destroy yourself trying to pay debt that shouldn't exist in the first place. Your mother got sick. That's not a moral failing. It's not something you should spend your life paying for. You don't get to decide that. I just did. He stood, walked around the desk. Lily, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met, but you're terrible at valuing yourself. So let me make it simple. You're worth $300,000 in medical debt. You're worth $200,000 a year in salary. You're worth whatever it takes to keep you here doing this work. And if you want to argue about it, we can, but the bills are already paid. Lily felt tears burn behind her eyes. She refused to let them fall. I don't know how to accept this. Then don't accept it. Just stop fighting it. She stood there, shaking with emotion she couldn't name, and realized something. This was what it felt like to be seen. Not as a ghost, not as invisible, not as someone who only mattered when she was useful, but as a person whose value existed independent of what she could do. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome. Now go home. Get some sleep. We have a board meeting Monday and I need you sharp." Lily left his office and stood in the hallway, trying to process what had just happened. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Lily, the hospital just called. They said everything's taken care of. I don't understand. My job has a relief fund, Mom. They covered it." "All of it?" "All of it." Her mother was crying. Lily could hear it through the phone. "I'm so sorry for all of this, for the debt, for making you give up your career. So, Mom, stop. It's not your fault you got sick, but you sacrificed so much, and now I'm getting it back. I have a good job, a real job. We're going to be okay." They talked for a few more minutes, her mother asking questions about Cole Capital, about Ethan, about everything. When they finally hung up, Lily felt lighter than she had in 3 years. She went back to her office and found a folder on her desk. No note, just the folder. Inside were documents, legal papers. She read through them slowly, understanding dawning. It was the Blackstone mining operation, not a purchase agreement, a proposal for Cole Capital to acquire the logistics infrastructure, the only rail line and processing route that connected the mine to commercial markets, and hold it until proper safety standards were implemented. Attached was a letter from Tom Chen, handwritten. "Ms. Hart, thank you for listening when no one else would. The mine is shut down pending repairs. Management claims it'll take 2 years to fix the structural problems. Most of the workers will be laid off. They're good people who can't afford 2 years without income. But if someone controlled the logistics route, they could require safety certification before allowing the mine to reopen. That would force management to actually fix things instead of just waiting until people forget and cutting corners again. I don't know if Cole Capital would be interested in this, but I thought someone should ask." Tom Lily sat back thinking. Ethan had created this proposal. She knew his work well enough now to recognize his strategy. Buy the route, control access, force compliance. It was brilliant and ruthless and exactly the kind of thing that made Ethan Cole dangerous. But it was also the kind of thing that actually helped people. Workers who kept their jobs because the mine stayed closed until it was safe. Communities that didn't face environmental disaster because someone forced accountability. Power used the right way instead of just for profit. She took the folder and walked back to Ethan's office. "I saw your proposal," she said. "And? It's good. But there's a problem." "What problem?" Tom Chen, the site manager. He knows that operation better than anyone. He's the one who risked everything to expose the violations, and your proposal has him sidelined while Cole Capital controls the route. He's a site manager, not a logistics expert. He's a man who proved he'll do the right thing even when it costs him everything. That's worth more than expertise. Lily pulled out her phone, pulled up something she'd been researching. There's a precedent for this. Worker ownership structures. We could partner with Tom, make him a minority stakeholder in the logistics operation, give him real power to enforce safety standards and a financial stake in doing it right. Ethan studied her. That's complicated, expensive, cuts into profit margins. It's also the right thing to do, and it sends a message that Cole Capital doesn't just extract value. We create it, with people, not just for ourselves. You want me to share power with a mine worker? I want you to share power with someone who earned it. There's a difference. Ethan was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled up the proposal on his computer and started making changes. What percentage stake are you thinking? 20%. Enough to matter, not enough to control. 20% of a logistics route worth $200 million is $40 million of ownership. I know the math. You're giving a site manager a $40 million stake in an operation. I'm giving someone who saved lives the power to keep saving them. If that's worth $40 million, it's worth it. Ethan made the changes, saved the document, and looked at Lily with something like respect. You're going to cost me a fortune in doing the right thing expenses. Probably. I think I'm okay with that. He sent the revised proposal to the board for Monday's meeting. That weekend, Lily visited her mother, sat in the small house that no longer had foreclosure notices stacked on the counter. They had tea and talked about nothing important, and Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Monday morning, the board reviewed the Blackstone logistics proposal. Gerald, predictably, hated it. We're giving away equity to a worker? That's insane. It sets a terrible precedent. It sets the precedent that we value people who do the right thing, Ethan said. Tom Chen saved lives. This gives him the power to keep doing it. It's sentimental nonsense. It's good business, Lily interrupted. Sites with worker investment have better safety records, higher productivity, and lower turnover. Tom's stake aligns his interests with ours. Everyone wins. Margaret Chen looked at the proposal for a long moment. I like it. It's unusual, but unusual isn't wrong. All in favor? The vote was 11-4. The proposal passed. 3 weeks later, Lily sat in a diner, the same one where Tom Chen had given her the flash drive, and watched him sign the partnership agreement that made him a minority owner in Blackstone's logistics infrastructure. I still don't understand why you're doing this, Tom said, staring at the papers like they might disappear. Because you risked everything to save people, Lily said. That deserves more than a thank you note. I'm just a site manager. You were a site manager. Now you're a partner. Use it to make sure no one else has to choose between safety and employment. Tom shook her hand, eyes bright. I won't let you down. I know you won't. When she got back to the office, Ethan was waiting with champagne and an expression that was almost a smile. The SEC just announced formal charges against Richard Grayson, he said. Conspiracy, fraud, and securities violations. He's looking at 15 years minimum. Vincent? Pleading out. Cooperation testimony in exchange for reduced charges. He'll lose his license and probably do some jail time, but not what Richard's facing. And Marcus? Interpol picked him up in Monaco this morning. He'll be extradited within the month. Lily took the champagne glass he offered. So we won. We survived. There's a difference. Ethan raised his glass. To surviving, and to the woman who made it possible. They drank, and Lily tasted victory. It was sweeter than she expected, more complicated too. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild. Fill the positions Vincent's team left empty, take on new deals, keep building what we almost lost. He looked at her over the rim of his glass. Unless you're planning to leave. Why would I leave? Because you could. You have experience now, reputation, connections. You could work anywhere. Lily thought about that, about all the places she could go, all the opportunities that would come from saving Ethan Cole's empire. I like it here, she said finally. I like the work. I like mattering. I like standing next to someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. Even when that someone is ruthless and difficult? Especially then, because you're ruthless in service of something. That's rare. Ethan smiled, actually smiled, and it changed his whole face. In that case, I have a proposal. Partner position. Equal say in major deals, equity stake in the company, and authority to kill any acquisition you think is wrong. No questions asked. You're offering me a partnership. I'm offering you what you've already been doing, just with the title and compensation to match. That's, Ethan, I've been here less than 2 months. And you've saved this company twice, exposed a conspiracy, and fundamentally changed how we approach deals. I'd say you've earned it. Lily looked at the contract he slid across the desk. Partner. Not consultant, not advisor. Partner. Real power in a company that moved billions. There's one condition, she said. Name it. We establish a formal whistleblower program. Anyone in our company or at companies we're acquiring can report concerns directly and confidentially. No retaliation, no buried reports. If Tom Chen had been able to do that with Blackstone Management, maybe none of this would have happened. That's expensive and opens us up to frivolous complaints. It's also the right thing to do. And it means the next person who sees something wrong won't have to hand a flash drive to a stranger in a diner. Ethan considered that. Done. We'll launch it next quarter. Lily signed the contract. 6 months later, she sat in her corner office, the one that used to belong to Vincent Marsh, and looked out at Manhattan. The city that had felt like it would crush her just a year ago now felt like possibility. Her mother was healthy, the debt was gone. She had real power in a company that actually mattered. And she'd learned something important along the way. Being invisible wasn't safety. It was slow death. The only way to actually live was to step into the light and risk being seen. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Conference room in 5. New deal to review. You're going to hate it. She smiled and headed to the conference room. Whatever the deal was, she'd look at it with the same ruthless honesty that had gotten her here. She'd find the flaws everyone else missed. She'd protect the company from people trying to destroy it. And she'd make sure that somewhere in the pursuit of profit, they remembered what actually mattered. Because the world was full of Ethan Coles, brilliant, ruthless, powerful people reshaping industries. And it was full of Tom Chens, good people just trying to do the right thing despite impossible odds. Lily had learned to exist in both worlds, to speak both languages, to understand that power without conscience was tyranny, but conscience without power was just noise. The trick was finding the balance. Using ruthlessness in service of something better. Being dangerous enough to survive, but human enough to remember why survival mattered. She walked into the conference room where Ethan waited with another impossible deal, another challenge, another chance to prove that visibility was worth the risk. And for the first time in 3 years, Lily Hart felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Not invisible, not safe, not small, just dangerous in all the right ways.